Good evening, and welcome. Tonight we delve into a profoundly significant and often contentious question. Should access to abortion and comprehensive reproductive health care be enshrined as legally protected rights? This is a subject that touches upon deeply held beliefs, ethical considerations, and fundamental aspects of human autonomy and societal values. We are privileged to have with us two distinguished guests, Ms. Anya Sharma, a renowned human rights lawyer and staunch advocate for reproductive freedoms, and Mr. Samuel Green, a respected bioethicist known for his thoughtful engagement with complex moral issues surrounding life and healthcare. Our debate will begin with opening statements from each speaker, followed by rebuttals, a moderated discussion, and finally, closing statements. We aim for a respectful and illuminating exchange of views.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. The proposition before us is clear. Legally protected access to abortion and comprehensive reproductive health care is not merely a matter of policy preference. It is an indispensable prerequisite for upholding fundamental human rights. At its core, this debate centers on the principle of bodily autonomy, the sovereign right of every individual to make decisions about their own body, their health, and their reproductive functions, free from coercion or interference. This is not a novel concept. International human rights covenants, including those interpreted by UN treaty bodies, unequivocally support reproductive rights as integral components of the rights to health, life, privacy, and freedom from discrimination, as well as freedom from cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. When these rights are denied, the consequences are devastating and disproportionately borne by the most vulnerable among us: women, girls, those in poverty, and marginalized communities, thereby exacerbating existing societal inequalities. Furthermore, the public health imperatives are undeniable. Ensuring access to safe, legal abortion and a full spectrum of reproductive services is critical to preventing maternal mortality and morbidity, promoting gender equality, and fostering healthier communities. The evidence overwhelmingly supports this.
Dr. Reed, Ms. Sharma, thank you. While I acknowledge the significance of the rights Ms. Sharma has articulated, I believe this discussion compels us to engage in profound ethical introspection concerning the moral status of the developing fetus and the intrinsic value we, as a society, ascribe to potential human life. We must grapple with fundamental questions. When does human life, in a morally relevant sense, begin? What obligations, if any, arise as that life develops from its earliest stages? The principle of the sanctity of life, a cornerstone of ethical thought across diverse traditions, demands our careful consideration in the context of abortion. It suggests a profound respect for life in all its forms, including its nascent stages. While the right to bodily autonomy is indeed significant, I contend that it is not absolute. It must be meticulously balanced against the moral consideration due to the fetus, an entity with its own developmental trajectory and potential for life. I also harbor concerns about the broader societal ramifications of policies that might inadvertently diminish the perceived value of fetal life, potentially eroding our collective sense of responsibility towards the unborn and the most vulnerable.
Mr. Green raises important ethical considerations regarding the fetus. However, it is crucial to ground this discussion in the prevailing legal and societal consensus, which typically confers personhood and the full panoply of rights upon an individual at birth. While the sanctity of life is a deeply held conviction for many, we must also consider the quality of life and the lived experiences of pregnant individuals. Forcing someone to continue a pregnancy against their will can lead to severe health, socioeconomic, and profound psychological hardships. Restricting access to essential reproductive health care, including abortion, is not an abstract ethical exercise. It is a direct infringement upon the established human rights of the pregnant person, their right to health, to dignity, to equality, and to make fundamental decisions about their own life. Moreover, the empirical evidence is irrefutable. Legal prohibitions on abortion do not eliminate it. Instead, they drive the practice underground, leading to unsafe procedures, preventable injuries, infections, and tragically avoidable deaths, particularly among those already disadvantaged.
Ms. Sharma's reference to legal definitions of personhood is pertinent, yet I would argue that moral considerability can, and indeed often should, proceed or exist independently of legal status. Our ethical obligations are not solely dictated by legal frameworks. The assertion of bodily autonomy, while undeniably a powerful claim, must be interrogated when it directly impacts another developing entity that possesses its own inherent potential for life. Does one right invariably supersede all other ethical claims in such complex scenarios? An exclusive focus on the pregnant person's rights, however important they are, risks obscuring the profound ethical questions pertaining to the fetus. This oversimplifies what is, at its heart, a deep moral dilemma involving competing values and considerations. I believe society has a legitimate, collective interest in safeguarding potential human life, and in cultivating a culture that unequivocally values and supports life at all its developmental stages, from conception through to natural end.
Ms. Sharma, Mr. Green compellingly argues for the moral consideration of the fetus, distinct from its legal status. How do you propose to reconcile the robust assertion of reproductive freedom with these profound ethical arguments concerning potential life, particularly when that potential is viewed by some as carrying inherent moral weight from its earliest stages?
Dr. Reed, the reconciliation lies in recognizing the hierarchy of rights and the immediate, tangible impact on the existing, sentient person whose life and well-being are directly at stake. While ethical considerations for potential life are valid points for discussion, they cannot supersede the fundamental human rights of the pregnant individual, rights that are actualized and currently experienced. Reproductive freedom ensures that the person most affected makes the decision, balancing all factors, including their own ethical framework and life circumstances.
Mr. Green, Ms. Sharma highlights the severe, tangible harms, including significant health risks, psychological distress, and socioeconomic disadvantages, that disproportionately affect women and pregnant individuals when abortion access is restricted or denied. From an ethical standpoint, how should society weigh the protection of potential life against these demonstrable, often life-altering adverse consequences for living, autonomous individuals?
Dr. Reed, the harms Ms. Sharma describes are indeed serious and warrant compassionate societal responses. However, the ethical imperative to protect potential life, particularly once it has reached certain developmental milestones, remains a profound moral obligation for many. The challenge is not to dismiss one set of concerns for the other, but to seek solutions that minimize harm to all parties. This might involve robust support systems for pregnant individuals and new parents, rather than viewing abortion as the primary or sole recourse to difficult circumstances.
Ms. Sharma, the debate frequently grapples with what are often termed hard cases, pregnancies resulting from sexual violence, incest, or instances where there are severe, often life-limiting, fetal anomalies diagnosed. How do such profoundly distressing circumstances influence the argument for unconditional legal protection of abortion access versus a more nuanced legal framework that might attempt to accommodate certain limitations or specific criteria?
These, quote, hard cases, Dr. Reed, starkly underscore the necessity for compassionate, accessible, and non-judgmental abortion care. They highlight the intensely personal and often traumatic nature of such decisions that must rest with the individual. Attempting to legislate exceptions often creates insurmountable barriers and forces individuals to relive trauma. Unconditional legal protection ensures that decision-making remains with the person most affected, guided by medical professionals, rather than by rigid and often inadequate legal carve-outs.
Mr. Green, if, hypothetically, legal access to abortion were to be significantly curtailed or even prohibited, what specific, comprehensive and adequately funded support systems and societal changes would you advocate for? How could society then realistically and ethically assist individuals facing unwanted or crisis pregnancies, ensuring the genuine well-being of both the woman and the potential child she carries?
Dr. Reed, in such a scenario, a truly compassionate society must commit to extensive support. This would include universal access to high-quality prenatal and postnatal care, significantly expanded and reformed adoption services that prioritize the child's well-being and support birth parents. Furthermore, robust financial assistance, affordable housing, childcare, and comprehensive parenting education would be essential to ensure that choosing to carry a pregnancy to term is a genuinely supported option, not a path to destitution or despair.
Moving slightly beyond the immediate issue of abortion, comprehensive reproductive health care also encompasses vital areas like contraception, maternal and infant care, and comprehensive sexuality education. How does the effective provision and universal accessibility of these broader services intersect with the abortion debate? Could significantly strengthening these aspects potentially find common ground, or perhaps mitigate the frequency with which individuals face the difficult decision of abortion?
Absolutely, Dr. Reed. Comprehensive reproductive health care, including affordable contraception and evidence-based sexuality education, is paramount. These services empower individuals to prevent unintended pregnancies, which in turn can reduce the incidence of abortion. However, it's crucial to understand that even with perfect access to contraception, unintended pregnancies will occur due to contraceptive failure or other circumstances. Therefore, access to safe, legal abortion remains an essential component of comprehensive reproductive health care, not a substitute for it.
I concur with Ms. Sharma on the immense value of comprehensive reproductive health care services, including contraception access and robust maternal and child health programs. These are areas where considerable common ground can and should be found. Strengthening these services can undoubtedly reduce unintended pregnancies and support families. While this may lessen the demand for abortion, it doesn't resolve the fundamental ethical questions surrounding abortion itself when a pregnancy, intended or unintended, does occur, and a decision about its continuance must be made.
In closing, I reaffirm my unwavering position. Access to abortion and the full spectrum of reproductive health care is not a privilege to be granted or withheld at will, but a non-negotiable component of fundamental human rights. It is absolutely crucial for ensuring individual liberty, advancing gender equality, and promoting overall societal well-being. We have heard about ethical considerations, but we must not lose sight of the tangible, often devastating, health, social, and economic consequences that restrictive abortion laws impose upon individuals, families, and communities, consequences that are disproportionately discriminatory. These laws do not stop abortion. They merely make it unsafe, clandestine, and a leading cause of preventable maternal mortality and morbidity worldwide. The data on this is unequivocal and deeply troubling. Therefore, robust legal protection is paramount. It is the bedrock upon which safe, dignified, and equitable access rests, empowering individuals to make informed, deeply personal decisions about their own bodies, their health, their families, and their futures. We must advocate for and uphold a policy framework that is firmly grounded in compassion, guided by scientific evidence, and unwavering in its respect for human rights and individual autonomy.
As we conclude, I wish to reiterate the profound and, I believe, unavoidable ethical questions that lie at the heart of this debate. Questions concerning the moral status of the developing human fetus and the inherent value we ascribe to human life from its earliest, most vulnerable stages. While bodily autonomy is a cherished principle, an uncritical or absolutist interpretation of this right risks neglecting significant moral obligations we may have towards developing life. It also carries the potential for societal desensitization to the value of life before birth. This is not a simple issue with easy answers. It demands a more profound, nuanced, and empathetic societal dialogue. one that genuinely acknowledges the complexity of the matter, respects all conscientious perspectives, and actively seeks to protect and cherish potential human life. Therefore, I urge us to move beyond entrenched positions and to diligently explore and implement life-affirming alternatives. This includes robust support systems that offer genuine choices, comprehensive assistance, and profound compassion to those facing difficult or crisis pregnancies. Our goal should be to create a society that supports both the pregnant person and the developing life, fostering a culture of care, responsibility, and profound respect for life in all its stages.
Ms. Sharma, Mr. Green, I extend our sincere gratitude for your eloquent, well-reasoned, and remarkably respectful engagement with what is, undeniably, an exceptionally challenging and deeply emotive topic. Your contributions have been invaluable. Tonight's discussion has clearly encapsulated the central tension: the imperative of individual autonomy and fundamental human rights on one hand, and the profound ethical considerations for potential human life on the other. I encourage our audience to continue this thoughtful reflection, considering the diverse and compelling arguments presented, as we collectively strive for a more informed and compassionate public discourse on this vital issue.